morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Welcome back to the 88th episode of the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart or Midlothian. Joining you as always is myself, Ewan Ramsey, and my co-host Alan Springer. Alan, how are you? Good, sir. You well?
Yeah, I'm good. I've certainly mellowed after Sunday's result. Well, performance more so, but yeah, let's just say after full time, I was not a happy camper, but I've certainly mellowed since then.
Nor was my phone as well. You absolutely bombarded it with the amount of text you sent as well on the actual day.
Oh,
Obviously, as Alan was mentioned there, we're going to be going through the games of, well, as of last week as we record on a Monday. Obviously, we're going to go through the first leg of the Conference League, the qualifier against the Rosenberg away, where we lost 2-1, and also the game that just passed yesterday in a very, very, very dull 0-0 draw against Kilmarnock. But hey ho, still undefeated, top of the league. Here we go, fucking hell. And we're going to go through a bit of news as well. We'll touch on a bit on the new signings was of Kenneth Vargas. And news that recently just broke out today, where there has been speculation that there was clubs in England and in Saudi that are very interested in our 30-goal a season striker Lawrence Shankland. So we'll talk briefly about that. We're going to I'm going to try and introduce the most ridiculous game show part of the podcast. I mean, we've both been trying to kind of get something just for a laugh, and the episodes recently. The name of it is shocking, so please, was it hold your ears, please. So we'll fit that in, and then also we will look ahead to both the return leg at home to Tynecastle against Rosenberg on Thursday, and our matchup in the League Cup against Patrick Thistle at home. So we've got a jam-packed podcast to bring you. So as always, guys, if you aren't subscribed to the Since I Was Young podcast via our YouTube page, please think about subscribing. And also, if you want to get in contact via our links to our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They'll be on screen and in the description as always. So we do hope you enjoy. So Alan, obviously, as I said at the start there, the 1 week and 2 games have passed. Very, very much like each other, dull, sloppy, and fucking slow. So we both watched. Was it the Rosen the board game through what was the pay per view? It was not worth the 12.99 being spent, but however, I guess we can talk about, as we always do, with the starting lineup. One name that was on the starting 11, which kind of surprised us all and was a bit more concerning, was it Benny, who did start the game, and then he got hooked at halftime. We said last week as well, when we were both talking about both him and Jeb Boyce as well, that the more smarter choice would be to almost, what was it? It was a drip feed them the both into the squad, was a, rather than the example of Halkett when we played the Riga away. He got was thrown in as soon as he was declared fit, and then after it was half an hour he got injured. So what were your first thoughts on that, Andy, starting 11 in general, sir?
I think when I saw the lineup at the start, I was a bit encouraged. The only sort of concerns were probably, like you say, the Benny and Devlin midfield. We've not seen it for so long. It was nice to see it on a team sheet again. But yeah, it was a really, really important game to throw somebody that's been out for so long into for their first start. But obviously, there must have been a reason why they chose to start with Benny. The forward line had Alan Forrest playing sort of closer to Shankland, sort of further forward, which was probably due to the fact that our other forwards were not able to play. Tagawa and Vargas at that point were unavailable, left at home. But yeah, I think it's one of those like when I saw Benny's name on the team sheet, I was happy about it. But there was also that thought of, is he really ready for
Mm,
this? Like, this is a big game to be throwing him into. And I think it's funny because Frankie McAvoy had spoken before about, having players that are brave on the ball in the middle of the pitch and players that can, progress the ball and stuff like that. And there's no denying that a fully fit and firing Benny does that.
mm,
Um, a fully fit and firing Benny is probably our best midfielder, in my opinion,
mm,
based off of how he was before the injury. But at the moment, Peter Haring is that man. And Peter Haring has fans that love him and fans that don't, as does every player in our team at this point, by the looks of it. But yeah, I just thought that Haring had a very good game against St Johnstone before that. So for him to not play in favour of Benny, who is obviously clearly not up to that standard yet,
mm.
was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, we may as well get him into it now, like because obviously, like with the team that we've got now, like on paper it looks. One could argue that it's a bit stronger than last year in certain aspects as well. Like yeah, like with the loss of like was it Gianelli, like etc. Like just sort of main was the key players. Like obviously we brought in was it Tagawa and the Vargas as well, and obviously they've dealt and have a bit more was a game time if they're able to feel like that like was it side of the midfield. But you know from what I've seen for the last three games, you know again it's just kind of seemed to be the same things. Like yeah, granted it is a bit more of we've got a bit more of an attacking was it prowess like was it if you will we got a tiny bit more threat like sort of up front like in that forward line as well. But you know I don't particularly know what your thoughts are, but like we was it have possession of the actual ball, but as soon as we get into that we'll the final third we just don't know what to actually do. And again that could be down to this specific way of like of what was it Naismith and the Mama McAvoy want to actually play. If it's just slowly integrating new players into the team, if it's was the players that been injured for a long time and trying to get back up to speed. Honestly, don't know. But like it seems to be like a recurring theme. And yeah, granted, we're only was it three games in, but at the same time, if you're gonna have literally like the Rosenberg game and the Kilmarnock game, granted the Kilmarnock game was a bit more of a dull like affair, but the themes and the vibe just were like almost the same. It's just like we had like was it control for some spells of the actual game, but we just did not know what to actually do and how to penetrate.
Yeah, I think Rosenberg, like, I didn't watch the Rosenberg Crusaders game the round before, but like I watched the highlights of it, and Crusaders went at them, had a go. Rosenberg, it was quite an open game, and there were certain things that we just didn't exploit at all.
No.
Um, I think the thing is, like we've said it before about European football and being like in European competition, you don't get the ball for as long as you probably do in Scotland. And I think it was actually Benny that said you can lose the ball in Scotland and get it back straight away, whereas in Europe, you're not always afforded that, which is true. But we just we had a lot of possession against Rosenberg, but we just didn't really know what to do with it, like you say.
Mm.
Um, and when we did lose the ball, they were much more threatening than us. They had a young lad in centre midfield. I think his name was Nippon, but I can't remember off the top of my head. 16 years old, and he certainly for the first 45 minutes absolutely schooled Benny.
He was
They had a
fantastic. I mean,
winger, yeah, they had a winger as well, that Nelson that scored I think he scored the second goal, maybe the first goal, can't mind off the top of my head, but
I think you're right. Second
he
goal.
looks a he looks a good player as well. And up against Natty Atkinson, Natty did okay, but we all know that Natty's strengths are not defending. So he was kind of exposed a little bit on occasions. But it is that way of we just didn't have that creative spark to get something going. The biggest positive, the halftime change. Obviously, I think Benny had a bit of a knock, and went off at halftime. But like speaking about the goals, I'm kind of jumping around the houses a bit. The goal, the first one, Benny lost it. I think it was Devlin got a yellow card for a free kick that wasn't really a yellow. And I think we were just too busy complaining about it. Maybe switched off a little bit. They took the free kick and they scored from that free kick. The cross ball in, and it was a back post, relatively easy goal. So it was an error from us, and not being concentrated and switched on, which in the build up to the Rosenberg game, a lot of the talk was we have to be defensively solid, we have to be defensively switched on. And in that moment, we weren't, and they capitalised and scored a goal. Um, Second goal coming at the point that it did was not great. You know, again, just
Literally on the
before
stroke of
half time.
halftime. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you go in at halftime 1-0 down, you're going, okay, we're still in it. There's still a chance if we just go in at halftime and change a few things. But the second goal, I don't know why Benny just doesn't foul the boy. Just take him out. Just like he let him go. He didn't even touch him. He just lets him go. And I don't know if it was a fitness thing. I'm going to assume it probably was. Then obviously they square it and the boy taps it in. So again, it's frustrating, and there's my favourite word again. But yeah, they were simple errors, and you can't make those sorts of errors in European competition, regardless of quality of opposition. Like Rosenberg, I don't think they're brilliant, to be quite honest, but they're good enough. And we gave them two goals at the start or in the first half, which did not help.
No. So like, I mean, the like it is quite it was interesting that you brought those was it up because the goals were was it silly errors and you know when I watched the interview with Naismith after the Kelly game he was saying it was it coming along the lines of we've been we're working towards not to give away cheap goals, which you could probably put those two goals into that what was it category because as you said we just was it switched off and as we said as well last week as well comparing with Scottish football to was it European football it's totally different and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't even just from being in the group stages last year, I don't think we've actually got the message through saying that this is not going to be your typical Hearts with Kelly like sort of
yeah,
for example, it's going to be fast paced. You're not going to get much time on the actual ball, and throughout that whole first half, like it showed. But as you said as well, Haring, I thought it changed the game for us as well. I thought it was absolutely solid. One player I do want to talk about, and this is also in like sort of was a relation to the Kelly game as well. I'd say it's probably a bit more concerning now that we're in was it to the new season. Was it Kingsley, mate? Like we mentioned at the end of last season that that boy's form fell off a cliff. Now it's at a point where he doesn't seem to be was it the climbing back up. It's so strange to see even at the start of last was the season and the season before you know he was probably one of the first names on your was a team sheet you know any sort of free kick we got, that like even if it was in the most awkward position, that was if you saw was the Kingsley stepping up, you knew, yeah, like there's a good chance it's a goal here. But it's since he came back from his injury, it's just been non-existent. Um, I mean, to start off, I mean, would you like agree with that? And if so, would you happen to know why?
I wish I knew why. I really do. I think it's funny. Like I saw lots of takes on social medias about it. So, I agreed with all the opinions that I saw, which was a case
Mm,
of, Stephen Kingsley had a big opportunity at the start of this season domestically because Cochrane obviously being out for the first 3 games guarantees that Kingsley's going to start at left back for the opening 3 league games.
mm,
And, if he puts in 7 or 8 out of 10 performances every week in those games, he maybe gives Naismith or whoever a headache when Cochrane's available again because it's like,
yeah,
well, we've got 2 very good left backs. But, you know, I've not seen Kingsley do anything in the opening couple of games that's made me go, I'd rather play him ahead of Cochrane,
mm,
which is not ideal. He wasn't like that, I'll talk about Killy in a wee bit, but
mm,
he's not been the worst player on the park by any stretch. He's done a good defensive job, but you can see the differences between Cochrane and Kingsley quite comfortably, to be honest. Which it is frustrating. It's irritating because Kingsley was he's almost like a cult hero with like the free
yeah,
kicks and obviously the you know goal against Hibs and all that sort of stuff. Like he's a fan favorite, and to see him how he is now, it's it's quite sad. It's quite sad. But thankfully, obviously, we've got Alex Cochrane to come back in as and when his domestic ban is up. I think he's got one more league game. I'm not sure if he's out of the Viaplay Cup tie against Partick or not. I think it's maybe just the league. But yeah, like going back to sort of Rosenberg situation, like Cochrane did a good job. I think we weren't particularly bad
Kingsley.
against Rosenberg. Oh yeah, no, it was Cochrane that played against Rosenberg
Oh, it was. Sorry,
because
sorry. Pardon my
Kingsley's
memory.
domestic,
You
Cochrane's the injured.
you
Yeah.
actually did do your research. Sorry. Yes.
Don't confuse me. Don't confuse me. It's easy to confuse me to be fair. But yeah, like he wasn't bad against Rosenberg, and I don't think anyone was particularly bad against Rosenberg. To be honest, I just don't think we were at it, which is what we should have been. And yeah, the second half, like you say, Haring improved it a lot. You barely heard that young lad's name mentioned in the second half,
Mm.
which was good. We had a few chances here and there, and then obviously towards the end of the game, Captain Shankland does what Captain Shankland does. It
Great
was a, it
header.
was a it was a good yeah, it was a good header. It was a good header. The ball sort of came back into him and he headed it back across the keeper. Like Shankland wasn't particularly brilliant in the game either, but that's what Shankland does. Like he can be floating through a game or he can be involved, but you always know that he's going to be in the right place to score a goal, which he obviously did. Keeps us in the tie.
Of course.
I'm still not sure how the second leg's going to go. I hope we go
Yeah.
out and have a real go. But I'm not sure how it'll go, to be honest. I hope we're going to get through, but I still feel like, I kind of feel how I felt about Zurich last year in the sense of like, it's in our hands, it's possible, it's doable,
Of course.
but I just don't know if we're going to be able to do it.
I get you. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And having the new players, Tagawa back and Vargas will probably feature as well. Having them might make a difference as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the tie is still alive, and that's the most important thing, and that's kind of the main thing that you want from a European first leg away from home.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Of course. Like. I mean, I do. Like. Agree. I don't think it's far gone in the sense that I don't think we're going to do it. However, much like yourself, there is a part of me that's like, just from the performance against with Kelly, like it was a bit of a okay. This could go kind of either way. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, this was it. This well, the podcast is built on hope, sir. So, like, let's have a bit of was positivity in there. I mean, going was it was it roughly like a long? I mean, not to sound bad, but for any Hearts fan that paid, was it £25 for a ticket, Alan, or was it 30?
My one was, yeah. My one
Right.
was.
So I could have saved you £25 and you could have just watched the highlights straight after because that is all that happened. Yeah. So do you want to? I mean, you can take a bit of was it of the lead on this one, Alan, because you was like attended the game, um, and all I got from you after I had the to 10 was messages on my phone was from you was slow, sloppy, and shite. Is that a pretty accurate? Was it in description of the game yesterday?
Fairly, yeah. It wasn't great, was it? The team news came out and it was Shankland playing in the 10 with Tagawa in front of him,
Mm.
Lowry and Oda on the wings, which was promising. He went back to Haring and Devlin in the middle. Obviously, Kingsley came back in at left back, but other than that, it was your typical defence of Natty, Kent, and Kai Rolls that played. Clark in goal, of course. Yeah, it was one of those games that, like, if we started quickly, which we needed to, we could have got going relatively early. But after, watching it for like the first 20 minutes and just thinking, even 20 minutes in, I'm thinking, there's nothing happening here. Like, this is like, and like, as I say, and you said it as well after the game, I was ranting about everything because there was lots of things to rant about, to be fair.
Of course.
um, but, in the cold light of day and having reflected and mellowed a bit, you kind of think the game against Kilmarnock was very much a case of Derek McInnes is an experienced manager. Um, he sets his teams up to play a certain way. They played exactly the same way against Rangers. They got a goal, and then they defended incredibly well. And yeah, they had chances against us as well. Like, it wasn't all us. It wasn't a case of attack versus defense, and we don't know how to break them down. It was just anything that we tried just didn't quite click. It just didn't quite come off. I like Shankland a lot, and I feel like we're going to be talking about him quite a lot in this episode. But he was playing in the number 10 role with Tagawa sort of next to, kind of just in front of him, but he was drifting everywhere. He was just trying to get involved. He was drifting into the wide areas where Oda was. He was drifting into the other wide areas where Lowry was. It wasn't working. He was trying to find space to play in, but there wasn't, because there was already another Hearts player in that space, and it just did not work. Whether that was a case of, and I put it down to the fact that we have a lot of new forwards that just haven't quite clicked together yet. Um, that's kind of where my mind is at with that. The one positive thing that I'll say was defensively, we looked good, as we did against St Johnstone as well. Like, I don't, I sat watching the game and I wasn't worried that Kilmarnock were going to score whenever they had a chance to have a shot or whatever. I felt that defensively we looked good, from set pieces and corners, which, again, I don't think I've ever said that. um,
Prove up.
Frankie Kent was doing Frankie Kent things and just heading everything. Um, I'm massively impressed by Frankie Kent. Like, I don't,
Agreed.
obviously it's very early, but he's looking like a very, very, very good signing for us, which is nice. But yeah, there was a lot more negatives than positives, and I think that was the biggest annoyance for me. It was almost like, you know peak Robbie Nielsen days,
Oh God,
backwards
Lord.
and sideways. Well, it was, and nobody will like to hear that, but it was backwards and sideways and backwards and sideways and trying to get forward and running out of space, going backwards and sideways and backwards and sideways. And it was just whatever they tried didn't work. So yeah, the I have to say the referee, David Dickinson, was absolutely horrendous as well. Um, One of the worst referees I've ever seen, to be quite frank with you. I thought he was dire. Dishing out yellow cards where they weren't needed. But that's Scottish referees. We did have a penalty shout in the first half, I think it was. I didn't see it clearly enough to give it a judgment of whether it was or it wasn't. Looked at the replay, nah, there's not enough in it. Shankland's kind of having 50-50s with the defender and they both just sort of fall over. We didn't even talk about the penalty shout in the Rosenberg game on Alex Lowry either, now that I've just remembered about
Yeah,
penalties. But that was probably the Alex Lowry one was probably more of a
was
penalty
probably
than the
more
Shankland
penalty.
one
Yeah,
was anyway. But yeah, the Kilmarnock tie, the halftime whistle went, and it was just underwhelming. For a home tie, your first home tie of the season, the home debuts for Tagawa, for Lowry, the buzz of having Kenneth Vargas on the bench, it was just very flat. There wasn't really a lot going, and like I say, halftime, all four sides of Tynecastle were booing. Whether they were booing the referee or the players, I'm not quite sure. I was certainly booing the referee because I thought it was dire, but people that were booing the players, I can understand to an extent, although it is obviously very, very early. Um, but yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great first half, and the second half didn't really get any better. We had a lot of possession, but again, just couldn't find that little final pass to get in. There were a few occasions where we were almost like one pass away from creating a chance, and it just was either overhit or poorly played, or like they hadn't looked up and seen where the person they were passing it to was. They didn't know where the runners were going, that sort of thing. Just very slack, which was not great. But it improved slightly. There were some positives in the second half. Liam Boyce came on and instantly improved things. I still say that Liam Boyce is our most important player, and people will disagree with that, but
mm,
I fully believe he is. Um, just for his intelligence, I've said it
yeah,
for as long as we've been doing this podcast. I've said, Liam Boyce is our most intelligent player, and he showed it against Kilmarnock. He was getting into spaces, he was trying to link things up, and he was playing how a number 10 should play. So that was good. Aidan Denham got on, young lad, looks promising as well. Certainly looks good with the ball at his feet. Not afraid to move forward with it, which was nice. Hopefully, see a bit more of him. Who else? Obviously, Vargas. I haven't even mentioned it. Vargas came on with about 15 to go, and I said it, before the game when he was doing the warm ups. He had the pink boots on, and if you're
value.
running out in fluorescent pink boots, you've got to have some form of footballing ability because you're going to get ripped to bits if you don't.
Fantastic.
Um, he carried it well. He's a good looking lad. Is Kenneth Vargas? I'm not gonna lie, he's a good looking lad.
Right.
Um, Aye, there was a picture of him. He winked right down the camera. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, I actually
Saucy like
saw
that.
it
Oh,
while he
look
was
at
doing
this.
the running, and he was running up to the camera doing the sprints at the start, and he had a wee wink at the camera, which I thought was quite funny. But no, when he came on, he looked quite promising as well. Looked full of energy. I kind of I when we signed him and when we were linked with him, I kind of thought, this is a guy, South American. Is he going to come over here and be a little diver? Not to stereotype, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get you.
Um, but he looked like he has a bit of, quick feet about him, a few wee tricks here and there to get away from people. But what I was most impressed with was his energy and his work as well when he didn't have the ball. Because again, I thought when we signed him, he was just going to be one of these forwards that, would be a little, one trick pony kind of player. But there were moments in the game where the ball was lost and he was chasing back, winning it back, which was nice to see. Shows that he's got a good work ethic about him as well. So yeah, the positives were there. I thought Tagawa did okay, considering the service to them wasn't particularly brilliant. But yeah, it was a very irritating and annoying day at Tynecastle, especially when your first game of the season, you kind of want to be excited and you want to get, your first 3 points at home of the season. kick on again, and we just didn't have it, unfortunately.
Interesting thoughts, Alan. So, like, I mean, well, so first off, like, well, so thank you for the in-depth um like analysis of the actual game. But I mean, what was it? I could have saved the time by just saying, yeah, slow, sloppy, and shite, no?
Aye.
Just die. Well, as you mentioned them throughout the it was a two games as well. We can come on to some news as well. There has been talk and some was a speculation mainly throughout was it today that there are some were the clubs on the radar of Shankland, more specifically, I think it's England and Saudi as well. What like or who those what the clubs are unknown. Um, what's your take on this, Alan? Because I am kind of in two minds about it. Like to was say the least. Like there's a part of me where like like where I thought like immediately, absolutely not. But on the other hand, as well, like what would be a price that we think most Hearts fans would be kind of suitable with for him to let him go? Because obviously, I don't know if the board themselves as well took into account the fact that Shankland had such a good was a season last year. I don't know if they maybe took into account clubs being on his was the radar as well. For a move as well. So just to kind of ask that sort of well the question, what was your first thoughts to it, and you know if these clubs are actually was serious as well about potentially making a bid, what would be a price that you would feel most kind of decay with?
Think it's really difficult. I think like there's lots of talk about it, and it's been kind of there's been whispers about it for weeks now, whether something might happen or maybe not. And then Barry Anderson put it on socials today, saying that there were clubs in England in the English Championship as well as clubs in the Saudi Pro League, which is where all that money is now,
Mm.
that were supposedly monitoring him. He did also say Hearts are in no rush to sell Shankland because they value him at a decent amount, and they don't really need to sell him because he's got 2 years left on his contract. So there's not like an urgent need for him to go. But at 28 years old, if he's going to get a move to a Saudi club, for example, you look at the money that's flowing over there. He could go from earning what he earns with us in a month to probably
Yeah,
earning that in a day over there. So
yeah.
from the players' side, I wouldn't be surprised. We said the same about Gino in terms of interest that was in him and whether he would stay or whether he would go. The money up here is just not able to compete with the money elsewhere, unfortunately. In terms of evaluation, I think the club will have to look at it very carefully. Um, I heard 3 million is a minimum that they would accept or they would be looking for. And there's part of me that thinks that that's not a bad amount to get, but equally, I think you have to look at it and weigh it up and say, well, European football, the prize money for European football, we made what was it, 6 or 7 million last year from
Right.
group stage football, just for getting there. We have more chance of getting to the European group stages with Lawrence Shankland in our team this season than we do without him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if you sell him for 3 million, say, after say we get past Rosenberg on Thursday and we're into the next round, obviously there's still another playoff to play, but say we let Shanklin go after we beat Rosenberg and then we make it through that round and into the group stages, that's fine. But I don't think that will happen if we don't have Shanklin in the team.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to factor it all in and say, well, he's the possibility to make us more money by getting into Europe or helping us get into Europe
Hmm.
rather than selling him. But yeah, it's I love Lawrence Shankland, and I think the partnership that he and Gino had last season was a massive part of why we finished where we did. We could have finished third if we hadn't chucked it away. But those two and the combinations that they had last season and that partnership, they knew exactly where each other was all of the time, which is something we've not seen so far in the early stages of this season, but that's understandable due to the changes in personnel up front. But yeah, like there's lots of people that were saying about Shankland, oh, he's looked lazy, he's looked disinterested, he's not looked at it. He still scored 2 goals in the first 3 games, so I don't care. Like I said earlier on, I don't care if Lawrence Shankland walks about with his hands on his hips, shouting at everyone for 75 minutes. If he pops up and scores a winning goal with 15 minutes to go, that's his job. Do you know what I mean? Um, and we've not had a striker do what he's done last season since John Robertson. So I think I think it's a very, very interesting one, and I still think it might not happen. But it wouldn't surprise me if he left, if there was an offer and an opportunity that was too good to turn down. But the number of 3 million is maybe slightly lower than I would like.
Yeah,
But
100%.
e- yeah, but equally, when you consider we paid 500,000 for him, to get 3 million a year later is not terrible business, realistically.
It's not. But like, even just to put the example, like sort of was forward as well. I can't even mind what was it? What was the team he signed for? But when Declan McKenna, the was a centre back from Aberdeen, went was it down south, and they paid like 5 mil for him. Would you not think that there would be a case of like for Shankland? I mean, personally, I would say like no less than 5 mil, and that's just basing it down like you what the mentioned did as well. Like from the fact that he had such a fantastic year last was it a season. I don't like me
Yeah,
personally. I don't know if he has a like was a clause in his the contract that what it can be triggered. I don't know, but and as you pointed out as well, he's only like a year into like a 3 year contract as well. So if clubs really want him, well, the person I would say like well then well to pay this was it then you'll have him because again we don't
yeah,
know if the club took that into account where they've been also as a backup was a looking into Shankland replacements as well. So you've also obviously got to take that into like account as well, no?
yeah. Of course, and I think the biggest positive for me is that the club doesn't need to sell Shanklin right now.
Yeah.
We're not in a rush to let him go, which is basically what the statement said. The article in the Evening News said. I think if we are to sell him, it will have to be for an offer that is too good for the club to say no to,
Yeah.
and for the player to be keen to go. Because Shankland, he'd made a lot of noises about wanting to play at the highest level and wanting to be ambitious and play at that level, but only if the opportunity came up for him to do it. He wasn't putting himself in the shop window and saying, "Come and get me." It was just a case of if there was an opportunity, I might think about it. But at the moment, he was happy at Hearts and he was enjoying his football and obviously doing the right things. And I think that's the thing. I think in this instance, Hearts do hold the cards on it, and whether he goes or stays or whatever money we get for him will be determined by Hearts, which is nice. But yeah, the concerning thing and the biggest concern for me is the transfer window has 2 weeks to go. Say
Yeah,
it
exactly.
goes to the end of this month. It's the end of this month, and I read on Twitter not too long ago that the Saudi transfer window lasts longer than ours. So you wouldn't want him going there after our window is closed, because then we're not
Precisely.
going to be able to get anybody. So there's lots of different things. I know there was a rumor of Middlesbrough as a potential destination for him because they have a striker, Chuba Akpom, that was a ex-Arsenal youngster. He had a brilliant season for Middlesbrough last year and is apparently being linked with Ajax for big money. So they could be in the market for a striker. And Shankland, obviously, his goal scoring record speaks for itself up here. So that's enough for clubs to be interested. The 3 million fee, though, as I say, is a bit little bit short, maybe. I would say maybe 4 million is probably what I would say. Okay, that's reasonable. I think as well, like you talked about the boy that went down from Aberdeen. I think a more realist or reasonable comparison is Kevin Nisbet at Hibs. You know, he went to
Mhm.
Millwall for a fee between 1 and 2 million. You know, initial payment. There's probably more on top of it, but you know, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Hearts man, but Lauren Shankland is a better forward than Nisbet. So, you know, and he's got a better goal scoring record up here to boot. So why shouldn't we demand a reasonable amount?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, from a business point of view, like if it wasn't Hearts and you're looking at it going, this is a player that they signed a year ago for £500,000 and they stand to make say 3-4 million, you'd
Yeah,
go,
no,
well, that's good business for a 28-year-old, with all
of
due
course it is. Yeah.
respect, no matter how influential that 28-year-old may be.
No, no, man, true. I mean, we would love to hear all your was it thoughts on that as well. If was it if was it Shankland were to actually go, how much would you think would be an acceptable offer for the striker? So yeah, we'll was I put that up on the Twitter page for the week. Now comes my time to shine, Alan. As I mentioned, it was actually an idea that I found while scrolling through was a Twitter via the Hearts Hub was a Twitter page. I'm sure that every week they do a would you rather was a section. I have I have borrowed the idea, and mine is are going to be called alternative was scenarios. So as I said before, the title of said the game show we played in San Morocco. Let's play alternative scenario. Get it round you. Can't believe it took me 3 hours to figure that fucking title. Jesus Christ. Anyhow, Alan,
Oh my
this
days.
is absolutely TV, YouTube gold, sir. That's where that's why folk actually come to watch us. Anyhow, so it's very simple. You've got was it two options. The options are obviously unknown to like each other because obviously like we don't know what would happen. But it's quite straightforward, sir. And if you want to play along at home and was it a comment just to say how fabulous this game is, please do. Right, Alan. So you've got three. Was it all? Was it like all? Was alternative scenarios here? So the first one in your starting Hearts 11, and you can only pick one. Would you rather have a prime? Was it a Shankland, as we've just spoke about, or a prime Craig Gordon?
Oh, oh, I can only have one.
You can only have one, sir.
Oh, can I say that this game, I had nothing to do with it? I had no idea. This was
Absolutely.
sprung on me just
Absolutely.
before we started this. A
You're welcome.
prime Gordon or a prime Shankland? Um, I mean, I'm gonna go for Craig Gordon just because it's Craig Gordon. Like,
Is
but
that your only reason? Just because it's Craig Gordon?
yes, yes. Shankland's only
Oh
been
man.
here a year, but I'm gonna go Gordon. I'm gonna go Craig Gordon.
Fantastic value. Thank you very much for that. The second one, kind of links with Shankland, as well. In your alternative was a scenario, Alan. Would you be
Mhm.
comfortable knowing in your lifetime that John Robertson was our top goal scorer, or in your lifetime would you like to see someone new break that record?
Oh, someone new, someone new.
Yeah,
I love John Robertson. I absolutely adore him. But the fact that somebody hasn't broken it until obviously Shankland has got the number of goals in a season, up until now, nobody's got more goals in a season than John Robertson is kind of mad. But yeah, listen, I love John Robertson. He's an absolute legend and an icon. But records are made to be broken, aren't they? So it would be nice to see somebody break a record for me.
fair dues, Alan. Fair dues. And your last well, the question. So obviously back in 2006, at the start of the Vlada era, we had what was the George Burley in charge. And after only a few months, he was dismissed with us sitting comfortably at the top of the league. In 2020, we had the COVID season, and obviously with 4 games left, we were sitting. I believe it was either 3 or 4 points adrift with 4 games left. In your alternative scenario, would you like to travel back to see what a George Burley team could do for that entire season? Or would you like those last 4 games to be played just before the COVID season broke, just to see if we could have stayed up? See, fucking fantastic
Well,
game. I don't know what you're moaning about.
I don't like that question. I don't like that question.
Why?
Because I'd like to see both. Can I break the game and pick both?
Absolutely not, sir. If you're like
Nah, look.
depending on it, which one would you go for?
I mean, you've got to say go back and see what the Burley side would have done. For me, like I think I don't think we're ever going to see, probably not in my lifetime anyway, a side other than Celtic or Rangers win a league up
True,
here
but
unless they disappear or cease to exist, which well Rangers did and then just came back again, so we know that doesn't work. Um, yeah, go back in time and see that George Burley side because that start that they made to that season was phenomenal. They had games buried by halftime.
aye.
So yeah, I'll go with go back in time and see what Burley could do with that. I don't know whether we would have gone on and won the league, but I think we would have been up there.
Mm. Well, thank you very much for your time and effort. And if you guys want to comment on those, was it questions as well? Please feel free to do so. And also, if you have enjoyed, we played this Morocco Let's Play alternative scenario. Please comment again, please, if you would like to see
It
it.
needs a new name. It needs a new name.
No, mate.
If it's going to
It's
be a
been
regular,
said
it
now.
needs a new name.
It's been said now. Like it can't be undone, man. Come on now.
Well,
Fantastic
why don't
value.
we open it up to people in the comments to give us alternative scenarios that we'll use next week.
Great shit. See, look, Alan, it all fucking works out. Team play, team play. Anyhow, we shall move on to the last section of the podcast, which is the preview for both the return tie of the Rosenberg in the with the qualification for the Conference League and also the first tie for Hearts in the League Cup against Partick Thistle at home on Sunday. Thoughts, Alan, as a whole, obviously we briefly mentioned it at the start as well, where we're almost as confident as we allow ourselves to actually be. I believe we're still very much in in the tie. For the Rosenberg game, I think if the situation was reversed and we were going away with the same scoreline, I probably would have possibly run off. But obviously, again, as we always say during these short nights, like playing like at the time, like under the floodlights as well, only a like goal like adrift. As we know, like away goals don't actually count now. So if there were to be a quick goal for us, we're straight was a straight back in it. So thoughts on the game, sir?
Yeah, I think I said it earlier about I have sort of some confidence. Don't know where it's come from, considering the game on the weekend. But I think the thing that we didn't even mention about the game on the weekend either was, obviously we played the game on Thursday night, and then to come back and play on the Sunday, there was tired
Yeah.
legs against Kilmarnock. But you just hope that the ring rust is slowly fading as the games start picking up again, and they start getting back into a flow of competitive football. I think it's funny because like when I was leaving Tynecastle the other day. There was people, when you're walking away from a game and you hear all the people chatting amongst themselves about it, and somebody said, "Oh, Rosenberg will just come and play exactly like Kilmarnock did, and just defend because they're winning the tie already." I don't know if they will. I don't know if they will do that. If they do, we're going to have to figure out how to break it down because that's going to be a big issue. Um, but I don't see Rosenberg doing that. I don't see Rosenberg coming here and going all guns blazing to try and score more goals because realistically they probably don't need to. If we don't score, then they're through anyway. But I think the game is in our hands to try and do something. Um, I'll say the same thing I always say about Tynecastle. If we can get an early goal, the place will be rocking more than it can. That was the one thing about the Kilmarnock game I didn't mention was I was sat near the Gorgie Ultras and I thought they did their best. But Tynecastle for large spells of that game was like a library. But the Gorgie Ultras did what they could to try and raise it. So hopefully they've got things planned for the European tie as well. But they can't do it alone. They need
No.
the people around them and the supporters to join in, which is easier said than done. But hopefully a midweek tie under the lights, Tynecastle, bit of energy. As I said, new players, Vargas, hopefully Tagawa, Shankland might well be up for it. Yeah, it's well set for us to get a result. And whether we can, I think will just be down to ourselves. If we make stupid mistakes like we did in the first leg and we deserve to go out, well, you can't say anything about that. But again, you said it. I'm as confident as I will allow myself to be because Rosenberg didn't look fantastic, but we made them look better than they actually were.
Yeah,
So if we can raise our levels and be a bit more on it, we've got a chance. But an early
absolutely.
goal would be massive.
Agreed on that, Alan. And just to quickly go over what the party got home. I mean, personally, like I don't think there's much to to actually say. Yeah, like granted, I took into like account from when we were talking about it just as the weekend there as well. I'm not doubting that Partick aren't a good side, not at all, but at the same time as well, you would expect a comfortable win. And that being said, as well, like although it being the League Cup as well, I would like to see us actually was it have a go, even though it's the most pointless Diddy Cup in the league. Like like we've came back was it close to it, like to actually just have was it a silverware there, but it seemed to like it's that cup that we literally always seem to do shite in, and it would just be
Yeah,
nice just to have a run in it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree. I think the Partick game will probably see a little bit of rotation in terms of some of the players that haven't played a lot. Maybe
Hmm.
Halliday might get a start, Civic might get a start. Probably Kingsley will probably play, or Cochrane if he's available. But yeah, it'll be good to. I think that's the sort of game that you want, especially after the disappointment of Kilmarnock, and then obviously after a European tie. It's not as if we're playing a Celtic or a Rangers after a tough European tie. We do have a
Hmm.
winnable game, which is nice. But to know Hearts is to know that no game is 100% winnable. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I hope I've not just jinxed us. But I totally agree with you. I think the League Cup is something that we should be trying to go far in this season. Obviously, you kind of have to have a bit of a luck of the draw sometimes in terms of who you
Of
get.
course.
But yeah, if we can avoid drawing the old firm for a little while, that would be nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely, sir. And just to wrap things up, a score prediction for both games, please.
Okay, Rosenberg at home. I I don't know. I think I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. So I don't think we're gonna do enough, unfortunately. I think our
Oh,
European, I know I hate to say it, and I don't I hope I'm wrong. I usually make predictions in the hope that I get them right, but in this instance, I hope I'm wrong because I just obviously want us to get to the next round of European football. But I just don't know if we're going to have enough. So
Ending on
yeah,
a
I'm going to go
bombshell,
for
Alan.
a.
Fucking hell.
I know the negativity of the Killy result has really seeped into me at the moment. That's a lie. I just don't know. I just don't think we're going to have enough. I hope I'm wrong. I really do, but yeah, I think a 1-1 draw for the Rosenberg tie, which will bring an end to our European journey, unfortunately. And for Partick, I'm going to go for a.
Hearts nil, Partick
Let's
3.
go. Do you know, it depends on The thing is as well though, like, and I've said this before, I think it depends on how the team plays. Like we saw Stephen Naismith setting up the team to play attacking football, and towards the end of last season we were having games where we had like 20 shots, 30 shots, and then against Kilmarnock we only had like 8 or something. I think it was like one on target, which is just a bit rubbish.
Mm.
But yeah, Partick should be a far easier game. I'm going to go for a Hearts 3, Partick 1.
Fair dues, man. Fair dues. For the Rosenberg, from my side, I mean, someone's got to bring some sort of was it, the confidence into it. So I'm gonna go for a 1-0 Hearts after 90 minutes, and then I hope that we can steal it in extra time. I don't know why like extra time like springs to mind. I don't even know if we do
Doable.
extra time um during the qualifiers, but like if we do, then I'd like to think that we maybe have enough in the tank to go ahead and get through to the last was it the qualification round. So that's going to be my prediction. And for the party game, I'm not going to go with an ambitious score, but I'm going to go with a comfortable 2-0 win against was a party onto the next round where we will play either the Rangers or Celtic. So, as always, guys, we would love to hear all your score predictions for that actual game and what changes you would like to see more specifically for the Rosenberg game. And as said beforehand as well, if you would like to see more of the game show, please feel free to comment down below. As always, guys, we thank you very much for watching. As always, we have been the Since I Was Young podcast for all things Heart. I'm Midlothian. If you haven't subscribed yet via the YouTube channel, please think about subscribing. And if you want to get in contact with us via our socials as well, please feel free to do so. They will be in the description and on screen as always. So to all going to both home games against the Rosenberg and Partick, we do hope you have a good one, and when we come back, we do hope we have something good to talk about. So from myself and Alan, we do hope you take care, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.